I think we got a heck of a shot of winning. We can beat anybody in the world, and I think we're going to win next Sunday.
David Wells has pitched a perfect game. 27 up, 27 down. Baseball immortality for David Wells.
And it's hit deep to left center. Andrew Jones on the run. This one has a chance. Home run! Mike Piazza, and the Mets lead 3-2. Bates against Joseph. Bates in on goal. Shoots. Metro! Defend Metro! And the Rangers have one more hell of a time, baby!
This is the Cross Island Sports Network, where iconic moments get iconic coverage.
You are listening to the Cross Island Podcast. Action! Hosted by Lyle Gillen and Errol Barks. Welcome to a new show of the Cross Island Podcast. I'm your host, Errol Marks. Actually, I have my other co-host, Mr. Lyle Gillian. Lyle, what's up, buddy? How are you feeling?
I am doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm healthy, man. I'm living. I celebrated my birthday this weekend. Enjoyed
Happy
it.
birthday.
Hung out with some friends. Thank you. Hanging out with some friends, just enjoying the world and what we live in and watching everybody get messed up. I actually drank. I only drink once a year, and I had a couple of drinks, couple of shots, enjoyed myself. I didn't really get drunk. But, about 20 people showed up, and I enjoyed it. So thank you for asking.
Of course.
All right. So we have a lot to get into tonight. We will be talking about the Knicks blowing a 2-0 series lead as Indiana ties the series 2-2. And as they head back to Madison Square Garden, as I predicted, ladies and gentlemen. Also, the Rangers return to MSG with a 3-1 series lead, looking towards the Eastern Conference Finals. So we don't know who is heading against the Rangers because it seems like it's inevitable that that's where they're going. The Rangers are going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I would love to see Rangers, Florida. I think those are the two best teams in the Eastern Conference. I still think Florida is a little bit better than the Rangers, but it'll be fun to watch. The Rangers haven't really played any good goaltenders yet, so I'm interested to see what the Rangers could do against a top-end goaltender. So we'll see. I think both teams will advance. We'll see. It's not over yet for Boston. So the Jets tried to replace Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, there's a rumor out there that they were trying to replace him. They kind of did. I mean, Nathaniel Hackett is the offensive coordinator, but he's not calling all the plays. He's not going to be the only one calling the offensive plays moving forward going into the season. So a very interesting story. And the Jets and Giants draft recap, because we didn't get a chance to do that because we haven't done the show in a couple of weeks. So very happy to be here, as I said, with Lyle Gillian. So I want to get into the New York Knicks because there's a lot to sort out with this New York Knicks team. And I didn't get a chance to watch game number 4. I was celebrating Mother's Day. I was out in Queens enjoying myself, but I watched bits and pieces, of the replay of the game, and it was just disgusting. I don't know if the Knicks even wanted to show up to the game. That was the big problem. Going early, really early in the game, Indiana took a real early lead and just really didn't look back. The Knicks were trying to play catch up the whole game, and they just couldn't catch up. Now, Jalen Brunson did not have one of his best games. As we look at the numbers right now with the Knicks, and when you have a player like Alex Burks, who the Knicks traded for at the trade deadline, Detroit, bringing him in, who has barely played in 2.5 months, and he was your leading scorer in 23 minutes with 20 points, there's a problem. And the New York Knicks right now, losing Mitchell Robinson, he just had ankle surgery, sources say, so he will not be back for the rest of the playoffs. No Julius Randle, no Bogdanovich, none of these players, and you see the difference of the New York Knicks. They're not getting enough. And right now, the big loss right now is OG Anunoby, because without OG Anunoby in the lineup, the Knicks have a losing record. They are right now, when he's in the lineup, I think they're 25-8. When he's not in the lineup, they're 14-19. And to me, though, that's not a good record. And to me right now with the New York Knicks, they don't have any bench. McBride had his best game of the series in game number 4 in 32 minutes, 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. And they're now playing the whole bench. I mean, it's been a completely different roster change for Tom Thibodeau, who's playing 8 guys throughout the playoffs, especially in the first round against Philadelphia. You had Josh Hart playing 46, 47 minutes a game. He was leading the NBA in the playoffs. And now you go into game number 4, and you see the team. They're just not – Josh Hart played 24 minutes. Precious played 24 minutes. Isaiah Hartenstein played 22 minutes. Dante DiVincenzo played the most, 32 minutes. Jalen Brunson, 31. Miles McBride, 32. Alec Burks, 23. And on and on and on. As a matter of fact, if you look at the roster, a guy like Tom Thibodeau doesn't usually do this. He played 12 guys in game number 4. And maybe because the Knicks were playing catch-up, that's what it seems like. That's why he did. He obviously knew early in the game that the Knicks were not going to catch up to Indiana. They were blowing them out, completely dominating the boards. I mean, if you look at the numbers and the stats, I can pick them up right now, which it's alarming to me. Field goal percentage, the Knicks were 33.7% to Indiana's 56.8%. 3-pointers, I mean, the Knicks were 7 for 37 as Indiana was 14 for 31. Free throws, the Knicks have had problems all series long. They were 22 for 31. They missed a couple of free throws that wouldn't have made a difference in a game like this, but in a close game, they probably would have. Mm-hmm. And then you have Indiana that was 7 for 8, who's really been very good at free throws. Here's the problem. The Knicks are getting out-rebounded by a team that shouldn't be out-rebounding. The Knicks all season long was the best rebounding team in basketball. It didn't matter who was in the lineup. They led the league in rebounds. And in this series, Indiana been back and forth, but Indiana's really been dominating on the boards, especially the defensive boards, where they had 43 defensive boards in game number 4. And to me, right now, when you look at the Knicks, they're not getting enough assists. They're not passing the ball. They're playing, a different style of basketball. When you play this type of game, you're not sharing the ball on the perimeter, and you're not hitting threes, Lyle, you're not going to win these games.
So the report is regarding OG Anunoby that it's not well and does not bode well for him to play in Game 5, currently for the New York Knicks. And you brought up missing free throws, and Jalen Brunson did not have a great game in Game 4. But I thought that, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's been playing injured. In the fourth quarter, in Game 3, he had 4 free throws that he shot, and he missed 2 of them. Those 2 missed free throws ended up costing them the game, because they play that end of the fourth quarter situation completely different if he made them. Because then, even if they make that deep 3 that they shot, how they come out and play afterwards is a completely different scenario. The Pacers wouldn't have fouled them. They would have probably, I believe they had a timeout. They probably would have taken that. It would have been a different situation. So that right there, I thought that Game 3, the Knicks should have won completely. I did not like how they played in that fourth quarter. They had plenty of chances to score, and they couldn't make a bucket. And I thought that cost them the game.
I think the Knicks gave the game away in the really throughout the first quarter of the game, and really the Knicks should have been up in the series 3-0. They came back in the third game. It was I think it was tied 104 or 105 going into the last minute of the game, and the Knicks choked. And this is the problem right now. I don't want to hear about Rick Carlisle complaining. If anybody wants to blame Rick Carlisle and the reason why they came back in the series, that's a crock of shit. Excuse my language, but it is. It's a crock. You can't blame the coach. The Knicks have not played good basketball. They've played crap basketball. They've looked horrendous in this series, especially in the last 2 games. And you want to know something? The Indiana Pacers are not as talented or not as good as the Philadelphia 76ers. They're not. As a matter of fact, I thought this was going to be I knew it was going to be a close series because they're a young, hungry Indiana Pacers team. They have Rick Carlisle as their coach. He's a very good coach. He's won a championship with Dallas. He understands what it takes to win. And I think he has a bunch of good young players, and they play good team basketball. But I did not believe that this series was going to be a complete blowout like every Knicks fan thought when they were up 2-0. I didn't. And the reason why is the injury report. The Knicks cannot stay healthy. I
That's
blame
a problem.
Tom Thibodeau. All season long, he was running these guys into the ground. And now you're in the playoffs in the biggest parts of the game, and you want to play these guys 46, 47 minutes. If you didn't play them all season long for 40 to 42 minutes in the games, maybe the Knicks wouldn't have all these injuries. Maybe Mitchell Robinson would still be here. OG Anunoby wouldn't have hamstring problems. And then obviously Bogdanovich, well, that was a freak accident, but nevertheless, the wrist surgery that he had to have, in the Philadelphia game, in the first game, I think it was the first game of the playoffs. So, I mean, you look at and Julius Randle. We all know what happened to Julius Randle. That is definitely just absolutely outworking him. And Julius Randle for the last 3 years has played too many minutes, and it's coming back to haunt him. He's getting older in age, in basketball age. He's a grandpa. I mean, what is it? Julius Randle right now is like 29, 30. I mean, how many years does he have left? 3, maybe 4 good years, and then he's a subpar player at best. So I don't know. I don't know what the Knicks are going to do. This was a big year for them. Honestly, this would have worked very, very well for the Knicks, because if they can get through Indiana, they match up very good against Boston if they play Boston. Even
you think that they would match up against Boston even with these injuries?
Yes, because Porzingis is not healthy. Porzingis was really the breaker there. If Porzingis was going to play in a series, the Knicks would have gotten demolished. I think not having Porzingis, and he's going to miss what I've been hearing, 5 to 7 weeks. He's missing the Eastern Conference Finals, and which means, the Knicks would have it. The Knicks would match up very well. They have OG Anunoby. They have good perimeter defense, which they haven't had for many, many years. Dante DiVincenzo is a good perimeter defender. So is OG Anunoby. So you have guys that can defend the perimeter, where you can take out guys or stick it to guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and make the other guys beat you. So I do believe that this was a year where the Knicks could have a chance to sneak into the finals. Now, I don't think they win the finals, because I think the Western Conference is so dominant this year, and I still think Denver could win that series. I mean, I was not surprised that Denver came back after going down 2-0 and winning the last 2 games. I wasn't. And I'm not going to be surprised if Denver wins that series, because they have the best player in the world. And I've said this many, many times. As much as everybody thinks Anthony Edwards is the best player in the world because of what he's done in the last 3-4 weeks, I beg to differ. Nikola Jokic has been the best player in the world for the last 5 years. And he's won 3 MVPs in the last 4. And he deserves all the credit in the world. If Murray scores and you're getting that kind of secondhand offense that you're getting from those guys, Gordon and Murray, you're going to win those games because you're better than the Timberwolves. Now, going back to the Knicks, they don't have any secondary scoring. Their scoring lies to Jalen Brunson. If Jalen Brunson doesn't score between 30 and 40 points, and you're not getting secondary scoring for either Dante DiVincenzo or Josh Hart, good luck. You're not winning the game. And I don't care. They're a 3-point shooting team. That's what they are. That's what they lived and died with, the 3-point line
100%.
all season long. And I'm going to tell you this right now. They're going to continue doing it until they lose this series. And the only way the Knicks win this series is they got to defend the perimeter. They got to make Indiana get inside and beat them inside. And they got to do better on the defensive boards. They're not doing good on the defensive. I mean, I'm sorry, not on the defensive. Well, yeah, on the defensive boards and the offensive boards. I think that right now the problem with the New York Knicks is the pressure's on them. They're still the veteran team out of the 2 teams. They're still fairly young, but they're the veteran team. And there's a lot of pressure on them. You're going into Madison Square Garden. It's going to be loud over there. The Knicks fans thought this was going to be a blowout series. And I believe if the Knicks do not come out strong early in that game, it could be another blowout by Indiana. I think Indiana has the ability to blow the Knicks out for the rest of the series.
Who do you think wins the series now?
It all depends who wins game 5. Whoever wins game 5, I think, wins the whole series. Because if the Knicks lose game 5 and you let Indiana win 3 games in a row, they're going to go back to Indiana and they're going to win. And if they don't win in Indiana, they'll beat them in New York, because it's hard. It's hard to beat teams back-to-back times. The fact that Indiana did it against the Knicks and the Knicks did it against Indiana, it just shows you how open it is, how open this series is, and how anything can happen in this series. I think both teams have deficiencies.
Okay, so who do you think wins Game 5 then?
My prediction?
Yeah.
OG Anunoby not playing, it's a big loss. But I think the Knicks fans will be on the Knicks side. I think it'll be very loud in Madison Square Garden. I think they'll be behind the Knicks. If Jalen Brunson scores over 30 points, the Knicks win the game by a very close margin.
I'm gonna go with the Pacers. I think the Knicks have the Pacers have all the momentum, and the Knicks have negative momentum. The Pacers built so much momentum off of that fourth quarter in Game 3, and being able to hold them off by 1 point for how long they did. They're hitting that long shot, and then they took that momentum and took it into Game 4. And I think with the injuries that the Knicks have and how much momentum and confidence right now that the Pacers have, I think they're going to take Game 5.
I don't. I think that the Knicks could win this game. I think the Knicks could pull off a win. I still think there's a lot of deficiencies with this Indiana Pacer team. They had the fans on their side. The Pacers are not a good away team. If you look at Haliburton's numbers, and I said it on my show the other day, Haliburton averages 20 to 21 points a game away, and he averages 26 to 27 points at home. All these players on the Indiana Pacers are better home. They're home players than they are away players. The Knicks have been fairly pretty good away all season long, but they've been run to the ground by Tom Thibodeau. And this is a big problem. And here's another thing. The Knicks have to figure out what's going on with their free throws. When you're averaging 71% in game number 4 and the other team's averaging 87, there's a problem. You're going to the line a lot, and you can't hit a free throw. I mean, that's a free shot. That's why we call it free throws. So, and you're an NBA player and you're making millions and millions of dollars, and you've been shooting those since you were in high school, since you were in really elementary school. So if you can't hit those shots, there's a problem. So
that was one of the first things I said when we started talking about the Knicks tonight. Is I mentioned how those 2 shots against two free throws that Jalen Brunson missed in the fourth quarter. He's your star player. You have to make those. They are free throws, like you said, and he went 2 for 4 on them. Those 2 points that he gave up would have put them in a completely different scenario at the end of the game.
I just think when you look at this team and you look at the statistics of the series, you would have thought that the Knicks would be dominating in many of these statistics. Not in free throws or 3-pointers, but everything else. I mean, the Knicks are the better defensive team. Well, guess what? Indiana in game number 4 had 7 blocks to the Knicks 2. The Indiana Pacers had 9 steals to the Knicks 8. Turnovers. The Knicks have been a good non-turnover team all season long. They still gave up 12 turnovers in game number 4. Well, throughout the season, they only give up 10 or less. I mean, everything. And by the way, you're letting the Indiana Pacers beat you in the paint. They averaged 60 points in the paint in game number 4 to the Knicks 40. You're not going to win games like that, Lyle. And I'm sorry, it was embarrassing. I think the Knicks and Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart, the leaders, Dante DiVincenzo, all the leaders of this team need to really look at themselves in the mirror and realize that they don't win this game in game number 5. I don't think they win this series. They don't even make it close. And I see the Pacers winning the last 4 games, the next 4 games, which they've won the last 2. They win game 5 and game 6 and end the Knicks, and it doesn't go to a game 7. This is a very important game for the New York Knicks. They got to show up to the game. They got to ride the crowd. And Jalen Brunson, who has not looked as good as he did in the first 2 games, because now Indiana's playing the bigger guards on Jalen Brunson, and Jalen Brunson cannot score against the bigger guards. He hasn't figured it out yet, and it's been a big problem for him. So hopefully he figures it out in game number 5. That's all I'm going to say about the Knicks. I mean, it's kind of
You think
crazy.
It's do or die in game 5?
Do or die. Do or die for the Knicks.
I agree. We gave our predictions. We'll see what happens. The game is tomorrow, I believe, right?
Yes.
So we'll see what happens on Tuesday night. But in the meantime, we have the New York Rangers tonight playing game 5. They're leading 3-1 in the series. They're coming off of a loss in Carolina after going up 3-0.
Yep.
So now the New York Rangers. Let's go back to game 2. Okay, this is what I'm looking at as an unbiased spectator. Game 2 went into overtime. The shots were in Carolina's favor. The Rangers had 29 shots, and Carolina had 42. Rangers ended up winning in double overtime. And then in Game 3, they went into overtime with Carolina having 46 shots on goal and New York Rangers having 24. See, the Rangers won both of those games. Igor has been fantastic this series, 1,000%. He has won them the 3 games. He has put them in this position to be able to get to the Eastern Conference Final. However, it does not matter how good your goalie is if you are consistently giving up 40 shots in back-to-back games in the playoffs against a team as good as Carolina offensively. That's not a winning formula. And I'm going to sit here and say right now the Knicks and the Rangers are in the same position. I think if Carolina wins this game, I think they very much can win and take it to Game 7 on Game 6. I would not be surprised at all. I think Carolina has 100% outplayed them at this point. And I think that Game 3, it looked like when they came out, it looked like the Rangers were complacent. They were standing around a lot. They were up 3-0. They looked like they were cruising. And, if I'm the New York Rangers, I'm not getting in my head that this series is over. Because they've been getting outplayed in almost every game. And you could even make the argument that they got outplayed in the first game. I don't think they did, but you can make that argument. I think that the series is not over. I would not be shocked if it goes to 7 and Carolina wins, but I do see the Rangers winning, going to the Eastern Conference Final. But if the Rangers don't win tonight, Carolina has all the confidence in the world, and you're giving a team that's been outplaying you momentum.
I think the Rangers are going to win this series. I think the Rangers are in a very good position. They were up 3-0. How many teams come back in hockey from a 3-0 deficit? I think it's only happened 4 times. I don't see it happening.
It's happened maybe 1 or 2 times more than that, but it hasn't happened in a while.
I don't see it happening. I think the last team to do it was the Islanders.
It happened I know it happened when the Kings won the Cup. I don't know if it happened since then. I think Boston did it.
I know the Islanders, the Stanley Cup Islander team, one of the
they didn't end it. They did it in 75.
They did it.
But they did it in 75 against Pittsburgh. I think Boston did it recently. They were the last team to do it.
It's hard to do, okay? And with a hot goalie like Shesterkin, who's been fantastic throughout the playoffs, and I think he's been the best goalie in the playoffs. It means a lot. And right now, the Rangers, they have some good young scoring. They're fast, and I think Carolina, even if they win this game, the Rangers. This isn't going 7 games. This will go 6. I think the Rangers beat them in Carolina if they don't beat them in Madison Square Garden. And again, Carolina.
If it goes back to Carolina, it's going to Game 7.
I don't think so.
PNC Arena is that. I'll give Carolina fans all the credit in the world. I think they are the most uneducated hockey fan base in the NHL, but they are loud as can be, and they are electric. And the Carolina Hurricanes feed off of that. And I think if it goes to Game 6, I very much think that they're going to end up going back to the Garden.
I don't. I think the Rangers will win one of these games. If they don't win today, they'll win Game 6. I think the Rangers. They have a great coach in Peter Laviolette. I trust that he will figure things out if they lose this game. I don't know if they lose this game. I think they might win tonight.
Yeah, the last team to do it was the Kings in 2014.
Okay, so I think that there's a great opportunity tonight to make it, a series and maybe take it to a Game 6. But I do believe that the Carolina Hurricanes have outplayed the Rangers at least 3 out of these 5 games. I do. I think they've been fantastic in certain games. They can't find a way to put the puck in the net. In OT, they've had problems beating the Rangers in OT. The Rangers have been the more faster and a more aggressive team in the big.
No, the Rangers got completely outplayed in both those overtimes. They got Carolina completely outplayed them in Game 2 in overtime, and then in Game 3 they got a lucky little deflection. But both
the
those
Rangers
Carolina
goal checking has been better than the Carolina Hurricanes.
They really haven't had the possession numbers to really say that they've been,
but it's
the
not.
better team in overtime.
I don't really look at the possession numbers in the playoffs.
But if you don't have possession, then how can you say you were?
Because you're
overtime.
You're playing a defensive style of game, and the Rangers, they're a different team this year. They are. They're a different team than they were last year and the year before with Gallant. I think they understand how to play team defense. They were one of the top 3 team defensive teams in the league. And that has a lot to do with Peter Laviolette and the way he coaches and the way he drives the players to play his style of game. I think the Rangers have played his style of game, and that's why they're up 3-1 against this Carolina team. I don't think Carolina's as good as you think they are offensively. I think they're very overrated.
Carolina has been very, very good in this series. They've been the better team. The reason why I
disagree.
Stats say that's correct.
Well, stats don't always tell you what the real truth is.
Well, when all the stats are favoring them, then the stats are correct.
Really?
The fact of the matter is,
3-0?
Because I said it earlier, Igor. He's been absolutely phenomenal.
Not just one guy. One guy can't just.
It has been him saving the day.
It can't.
Two games
play well.
Two games when they went to overtime.
Putting the pucks in the net, Lyle.
2 games when they went to overtime.
Come on, Lyle.
When they had he has faced over 40-something shots. If they have even Quick in net, they're losing those games.
How do you know? Quick's won 3 Stanley Cups. Quick has been awesome all season long as the backup player.
I'm telling you right now, Igor has been the savior of the New York Rangers right now. And there's no way to say it otherwise.
The Rangers are getting goal scoring. They're scoring goals in this series.
They are 100%. But if Igor is not playing as good as he is, if Igor is not playing as good as he is, the Rangers are not in this position right now.
The Rangers defense has played pretty well in this series too.
Not really. They've giving up 40 shots in back-to-back games is not good team defense.
They're not good shots, Lyle. Watch the game.
I very much did.
They're being thrown at the net at the point.
Should have won.
They've been thrown at the point,
and
they're not.
I will also give the Rangers a lot of credit. They had in game 2 they beat them without scoring any power play goals, and game 3 they scored 2. But I'll give them all the credit. They've been scoring on 5-on-5, which statistically in the regular season they were not good 5-on-5 again. That's been a problem they've had for years. They were ranked 22 in expected goal differential at 5v5. They were not a great team 5v5, but they were by far the best team on the power play and on the penalty kill. Their penalty kill has been phenomenal this series, holding Carolina to 1 power play goal. Special teams has also been very good for them. But you look at their special teams and their penalty kill. The old adage is that the goalie has to be your best penalty killer. And I go back to giving Igor credit on the penalty kill. They've been I think there's been a lot of areas where the Rangers have played very well in this series. But overall the Carolina Hurricanes have been the better team.
I disagree. I think the Rangers have been the better team.
You can disagree all you want, but stats say otherwise.
Again, I'm watching the game, and the shots that they're shooting is not quality shots. So I disagree with you. They're just throwing it at the net. And I mean, Igor's made some great saves. I'm not saying that he hasn't been challenged in this series, but the Rangers defense has played very well in this series. Defensively, they've been very good. And I disagree with you. And when you go to the overtime, you have to play very good defense, team defense. And yes, maybe they got a little bounce here and bounce there, and the bounces are falling their way. But the Rangers have played just as well or even better than Carolina. That's why they were up 3-0. Yes, Igor has a big reason why. The coaching, the way they forechecked in the first 3 games of the series. They were out forechecking Carolina. They were. Now Carolina
they did not play well in games 2 and 3.
I disagree.
You can disagree all you want to, but I'm telling you what I said. I'm saying is a fact. The Carolina Hurricanes outplayed them in both of those games. That is a factual statement. When you were getting that like the face-off percentages were 61% to 39% in game 2, and Carolina outshot them before overtime. I won't take the 2 shots that happened in overtime on the board. Won't keep them on there, but it was 46-25 in regulation. It was just you can't sit here and say that
Stats
Carolina.
don't sell everything, Lyle. They don't.
Stats tell majority of the story.
That's bullshit.
I watched both those games. Games 2 and 3 were all Carolina. All Carolina. Carolina should have gotten to game 4 up 2-1. Igor has saved that.
Game two, Frederick Anderson had 39 shots on him. 39 shots on him. So it was just all Carolina.
39 through double overtime.
It doesn't matter. 39 is a lot. That's a lot of shots.
And the Carolina Hurricanes had 57 shots.
All right.
Double overtime.
All right. And I told you, watch the game, and I know you did. They weren't quality shots. They were throwing it on.
Okay, and how many of those 39 from the Rangers were quality shots?
Not a lot. Not a lot. But again, I think the Rangers have outplayed.
But if you were having the puck for a possession in order to have 57 shots on goal, you are outplaying the other team completely. Especially when in regulation, when you are having 42 shots on net, that's not a formula to win when you are giving up 40-plus shots in back-to-back games.
I wish I had the statistics, like real statistics of quality shots. If there was a statistic that says the quality shots on goal, I bet you the Rangers had better quality shots in all those games except maybe one than Carolina did. Carolina was just throwing the puck at the net. Now, I'm not saying Igor didn't make some great, unbelievable saves. He did, and I'm not taking that away from him. But I beg to differ. I think Carolina has not outplayed the Rangers. I think the Rangers have outplayed Carolina.
I think you've watched games from a couple of years ago when they played Carolina.
No, I've watched this series, and I'm watching this right now. Right now, it's 7. The Rangers are averaging. They have 7-5 right now. 7-5 right now. And it doesn't matter who has more shots. The Rangers have had more quality shots on goal than the Carolina Hurricanes have.
Okay.
I'm watching the game right now.
Okay.
So I disagree with you. I have a right to disagree with you, but
of course.
So what do we? So I think the Rangers win this series. I think the Rangers.
I think they will too, but I'm just saying if Carolina wins this game, it's going to go 7.
I think the Rangers win in 6. If the Rangers lose this game, they beat them in Carolina. That's my prediction. Jets tried to replace Nathaniel Hackett. There was a story coming out. Few people. Bleacher Report sent a story out.
I think it was Connor Hughes who reported it first.
Yes, but Bleacher Report also reported it. It was coming out. And Connor Hughes, he gets the scoop. I don't believe that story. Okay? I don't believe the story. Nathaniel Hackett will be there as long as Aaron Rodgers is there. Unless he completely screws up now that Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback and they can't get over the hump as he is the offensive coordinator. But he's not even calling all the plays. Now you're going to have 2 other guys. Dowd's going to be a part of that, and the wide receiving coach is going to be about a part of the play calling this season. So you're not going to have 1 offensive coordinator. You're going to have actually 4 because Robert Saleh has to approve it. So you have 4 guys involved in the offense this coming year. And by the way, the real offensive coordinator is Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, 100%.
On the plays on the field. They're just going to be sitting there taking the credit when the plays are being called. Okay? But the fact is Nathaniel Hackett will be there as long as Aaron Rodgers is there. And I don't care what anybody says. The reason why he got that job, the reason why the Jets decided to give him that job was because of Aaron Rodgers. That was to persuade Aaron Rodgers to come to this franchise because they wanted to make him comfortable. Do you think they really wanted Alan Lazard? You think a guy like Joe Douglas, who's been so bad at bringing in free agents, wanted to bring in Alan Lazard and give him $11 million a year? Alan Lazard is a shell of what he was without Aaron Rodgers. Now Aaron Rodgers is coming back. I believe Alan Lazard will have a good season this year. I do. I think he'll have a good year this year. He'll have 750 yards. He'll have a couple of touchdowns. He'll be a good red zone guy for Aaron Rodgers because he was good in Green Bay. But he's going to have Corley now. And he's going to have Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's going to have it. As long as Aaron stays healthy, Garrett Wilson will have 1,500 yards this year. And Mike Williams, whenever he gets healthy, I think Mike Williams is going to have a fantastic year too.
I'm very excited to see Mike Williams.
Yes. So I think the Jets have a lot of weapons offensively. Breece Hall will be running all over. I love Braylon Allen. I think he's a great pickup for the New York Jets. I want to see Izzy in OTAs because everybody thinks that Izzy lost his job. He didn't lose his job. They can carry 3 running backs during the season. I expect the Jets have 3 running backs on their roster. What happened?
You drafted 2 of them, so one of them you think is going to go to.
He's going to be on. He's going to be on the practice team. They'll keep one on the practice team. He's got to pass waivers. He will, unless he has a great preseason. He's scoped out by somebody to say like, I want that guy. And I don't think that's going to happen. They did that with Bam, and then Bam went to the practice team, and eventually, if somebody gets hurt, he'll be called up. And they like the kid from North Dakota. So I don't know what he is. I don't really know who he is. I didn't even know who Braylon Allen was, except for Josh does because he's from Wisconsin. And to me,
the only players Josh knows is from the one from Wisconsin.
Yeah, but the thing with the Jets is I'm starting to realize what the Jets are trying to do. And
trying to build playmakers for Aaron Rodgers.
What the Jets do is they look at certain colleges, and that's where they scoop them up. They look at Wisconsin. They've looked at Florida State. They looked at I'm trying to think of the other teams. Iowa. They're looking at teams or colleges that they scout significantly, and you could see it. Breece Hall and who's the kid that they drafted in the first round last year? The defensive lineman. They brought him in. Another guy from Iowa. You have Tippmann and you have Allen coming from Wisconsin, and now you have Florida State. You have Travis Jordan, and you have Johnson. So you have 2 other guys, and if you go through their roster, they're bringing in guys from colleges that they scout significantly. So I like what the Jets did. Their draft was very, very good. A lot of people. But you don't know what these guys are going to turn out to be. I love Olu.
No, you don't.
I think Olu's he's going to be. Everybody says when you draft a guy in the first round, he's got to start. I disagree. There's going to be injuries on that offensive line. The Jets have had more offensive line injuries than any team in football in the last 3 years. So I expect Olu, no matter what, to play at least 13 games this year. I don't know what position. He could play guard. He could play right tackle. He could play left tackle if Smith doesn't stay healthy. I expect them to have Olu in that lineup for a significant amount of time. And I think he's special. I think he's a great pass blocker. He didn't give up a sack in college. And the kid Corley that they brought in from, I forget, Western Kentucky or whatever the hell the fuck he's from. He's special. He's special too. I love him. They call him the Yak King. He's one of the best in the country. He was one of the best in the country this year after the catch. And I'm going to tell you this right now. They compare his game to Deebo Samuel. If he's anywhere close to Deebo Samuel, the Jets got something very, very special in him. So I think the Jets are,
that would be that. Listen, if he turned into Deebo Samuel, and the Jets ended up having Wilson and then another form of Deebo Samuel, that's a pretty dynamic 1-2 punch.
Yeah, and Mike Williams is only going to be there for 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, in a couple of years in the future, not this season.
Mike Williams is going to be for a year. Alan Lazard has a contract for another 2 years. Now, the Jets could actually waive his contract after the second year, and they probably will because they're going to save money.
Is there any guaranteed money after this year?
No, the Jets could actually waive him after this year, which they probably will. Because if they want to keep Michael Carter, but that's why they brought in the kid from the CFL. They drafted the kid from the CFL.
Supposed to be very good. I don't watch the CFL very much, but everything I've heard about this kid from the CFL is amazing thing.
CFL as a rookie.
That's pretty good.
He's really good, and they liked him a lot. And his story about him and his father dying, and he's stepping away from it. He didn't go and play college ball because of his father's death. He didn't want it being that his father was his biggest supporter. When his father died, he stepped away from football, and then he went to the CFL. In his rookie season, he put 5 interceptions, and he was the rookie of the year, and he had a sensational year, and he was the first CFL player ever drafted in the NFL draft. The Jets really liked the kid, and the fact that he fell to the 5th round, they were very surprised about it. They also drafted the kid from Alabama, as their final pick of the draft, and they really like him too. So the Jets are, they're trying to boost up the defense and boost up their offense, and they did. I mean, the first 3 picks, really the first 4 picks, were offensive players, and I expected the Jets to do that because they're trying to give Aaron Rodgers even more weapons to work with. And I think that as long as they can keep him on his feet, these guys are going to open up a huge opportunity. And I love their tight ends. They have. I expect to see Jeremy.
Oh, really?
I like Jeremy Rucker. I watched him play for Ohio State. He's a Long Island native from Lindenhurst. I've heard a lot of good things about him last year when he was playing, and in the preseason he looked really, really good. I expect him to play at least 5 to 6 snaps in every single game this year, maybe even more than that, especially if Conklin can't stay healthy. And Conklin I like, even though he had the drop, he dropped the ball a lot last year. I still think he's a weapon for Aaron Rodgers especially in the flats. So I think the Jets have an opportunity to win 12 or 13 games this year, and I love what they did in their draft. Again, I give them an A-. I won't give them an A+.
I loved it. I thought it was great. And they even came out with a good pick for next year. So
yeah, 3rd round draft pick. They got 2.
When we look at their schedule for next year, we can go down. You said 12, 13 games. I think they have a pretty middle of the road schedule. They play the Bills twice, Denver Broncos, Houston Colts, Rams, Miami twice, New England twice, obviously, Arizona, Jacksonville, Minnesota, Pittsburgh 49ers, Tennessee, Seattle. I look at this and I think 12-13 can be realistic, but then also at the same time I look at this and I'm like, they're the Jets. They can go 8-9, make the playoffs, and barely get in.
They won 7 games last year without any quarterback. They won 7 games last year without. They had 4 quarterbacks play, and they won 7 games. And they should have beaten Kansas City. They should have beaten Kansas City. That they got robbed in that game.
They 100% did.
And they should have beaten. I forget the other team they should have beaten. They should have won 9 games last year. They should have. And they beat Houston. They beat good teams. They beat the Eagles, 2 teams that made the playoffs. Okay.
But that Houston game,
they outplayed them.
Yeah, they did. But what's his name? The quarterback. Wasn't he injured?
No, C.J. Stroud played.
Yeah, but I thought he came out injured.
Got hurt in the 4th quarter.
It was the 4th quarter.
It was the 4th quarter. He played most of the game. And the Jets dominated that game defensively.
They did dominate.
And actually, that was probably Zach Wilson's best game as a Jet. Even over the Kansas City game? Yes. I think he outplayed C.J. Stroud that game. Yes.
So, what are the chances that when the Jets play the Denver Broncos,
he's not starting? No. It's Bo Nix.
Him could play that game, or against Minnesota.
He's not even making the squad.
Or against Minnesota, Sam Darnold plays. Imagine the Jets play both their former franchise quarterbacks because they're the Jets, and then they have the game of their lives.
J.J. McCarthy. And
just because they drafted them then, does that mean they'll be healthy for that game?
That might happen.
100% possible.
I don't even know if Zach Wilson is the backup yet. He might be the 3rd guy.
He might be the backup to the backup's backup.
Yeah, I don't even know if he makes the. I don't even know if he makes the squad.
I don't know how they got anybody to take him, to be honest.
Listen, if anybody can help him, it's Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton can figure himself out. He's a great quarterback guy. He worked with a lot of quarterbacks in the past, the giant quarterbacks, because he was the offensive coordinator. He worked on the Bill Parcells squad. He's worked all different places. He understands how to develop a quarterback. So if there's anybody that could develop him, it's him.
And I'll be 100% fair to Zach. This is probably the best place for him.
Yes.
Because there's not going to be a lot of people paying attention to Denver Broncos right now. You look at the New York Jets when you get drafted here, you have the spotlight, you have the pressure of playing in New York. You can kind of go to Denver, go and be a practice squad quarterback for right now, work out all your problems, figure it out, have that year off, and be okay, and not have to have the distraction in your head of playing in New York. I don't think he was able to handle that. I think that was a big problem for him. Like we've all seen his arm talent. We know he has the arm talent, but I think the consensus on every Jet fan and everybody who has watched him for the last 3 years is that the problem is not with his talent, it's the problem is what's between his ears. And I think that is really where he needs to work the most.
I don't know if he'll ever be a starter in this league. Okay, I'm not going to say that he is. I'm not going to say he's not. I think Sam could be a starter in this league. He showed me last year when he took over for Brock Purdy that he can absolutely run a good offense. But I think Sam's going to be a journeyman too, just like Geno Smith was until he found his spot. Now, Geno Smith might lose his job next year. I mean, Geno Smith did not look good like he did his first year taking over for Russell Wilson last year.
Do you think that if it doesn't work out with Bo Nix, Geno Smith goes to the Denver Broncos and plays under
No, because I think Bo Nix is going to be really, really good over there. I think he's going to fit perfectly over there like a glove. I think Bo Nix could actually be one of the better quarterbacks in that class.
You know, I remember reading up about what the Denver Broncos did on everything they were looking at with Bo Nix, and when you have a guy like Sean Payton who's that involved in drafting a quarterback, and when you are doing that much research on a quarterback, you can tell by what they were doing and what they were doing with him. I remember reading a story about how they had him come in, they gave him the playbook.
They had him come in 7 times, 6
Yep,
times.
and they had him come in, they gave him the playbook, and then he went in and he had it memorized perfectly, and he hit it home run there. And I think that right there shows to you, like, hey, you could have the skill set coming out of college where you are an above average quarterback, but if you have the work ethic and the brains of a very good quarterback, I think you can become elite. Look at Tom Brady. When he came out of college, he didn't have the skill set that he was and developed into. He got that by working hard. I'm not saying Bo Nix is going to become Tom Brady, but if you have the right tools outside of the natural talent you need, you can develop a lot of those.
Tom Brady's greatness came from not his skills.
No.
Tom Brady his greatness came from what he saw on the field before it even happened. Tom Brady would read plays.
Well, that was partially because of his work ethic and how smart he was.
No, because honestly, it's not true. Because if you watched the Patriots dynasty documentary, when Bill Belichick brought him in, when Bledsoe got hurt, he said within 2 days of practice, he knew that Tom understood the playbook, but more than he did at certain aspects of the offense. And he said that he let Tom ride it. He let Tom.
So doesn't that go back to again what I said? How smart you are and your work ethic?
No, but you're saying that, is work. Yeah, he had a good work ethic. Every quarterback has a good. Even Zach.
By work ethic, I mean working behind the scenes, not sitting there working at throwing the football and working on your skills. And I mean like going and working, watching tape and studying the playbook, studying your opponent, studying the defense, doing all that stuff. Because that stuff is, in my opinion, is all just as or even more important than raw natural talent. You can have all the raw natural talent in the world. If you don't do any of that other stuff, you're gonna be shit.
Dude, Zach has all the raw natural talent you can.
Exactly, but he doesn't have anything between his ears, and he doesn't have the. I remember hearing the stories.
Here's the problem with Zach. Zach should have fucking taken responsibility, and he lost the team. After he lost the team, he realized that the team didn't want him there anymore. And if you notice, guys, even guys that were only there for a year or 2 years with those organizations, they write a nice little story to the fans and everything. Did you see Zach Wilson do that?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Zach Wilson is a sore loser. Okay, what I would have done,
immature.
I would.
He comes from a family where they're rich and I think they babied him his whole life, and now he went to the NFL. He struggled and he's immature.
You're right. He's immature, but here's where you build class. This is how you win over the fans. This is how you win over your coaches. You go out there and say, "Listen, I would have wrote. Listen, I as a Jet, I didn't do what I was drafted to do, and I apologize to all the fans." As I, grow as a player, I just want you guys to know that I love being a Jet, and I always will remember the good times and the bad that I was there. Thank you to all the Jet fans. Thank you to all the players I played with and my coaches I work with, and I wish you all the luck in the world. That's what I would have wrote as a thing. Even if I wasn't happy with the organization for what it did to me, I would have done that. It showed class. It shows that you're different. Sam Darnold did it. Darnold did it when he left, when he was traded. He was happy that he was traded to Carolina, and he went out with class. He sent out a letter to the Jet fans, and he thanked the Jet fans for the time that he was there, and he says he wishes nothing but the best to the organization. Okay?
See, but here's the thing. Like I said, Zach Wilson was a rich little boy who got spoiled his whole life. So there is absolutely nothing that no chance he ever would have done that, because that takes a lot of thinking for yourself. And I hate using this term in 2024. I really hate it, but it's kind of true. It takes a real man to step up and do that, and admit when you're wrong, admit when you messed up, and that's essentially what he would have been doing, and saying, hey, I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. That's what he would have done by writing that letter. And I think he was just way too mature, and he's a spoiled little rich kid.
And it's gonna hurt any opportunity that he has, because as soon as the Broncos get sick and tired of him, as we saw Russell Wilson, because he doesn't get along with his teammates, they boot him out. But Russell Wilson has won a Super Bowl. This guy couldn't hit a note. He couldn't hit the back of a barn. Okay, he couldn't hit anything, and that's the problem with Zach Wilson. I just don't think he has the understanding of what it is to be a leader. And to me, it's a big problem. It's a big problem.
I think I 100% agree. He doesn't have what it takes to be a leader. He definitely showed progression in the last year, but how much of that was he coached and what to say? That's what I kept thinking his entire last year, because there will be a lot of times when you come out.
You think he had progress last year?
Hold on, no. Let me finish. He came out and then he would say the right thing, but I never once believed that those were his words. I never once believed him coming out, and when he would say, oh, I didn't play well. Was he saying that, or was someone telling him, hey, you have to go say this to the press?
I didn't see any progression.
I'm not talking skill set wise. I'm talking about him to the media. Remember when he got benched for Mike White?
You would have realized, that I have to be a little bit more understanding, and I have to lie. He went up there and he lied. He didn't want to blame it on anybody, because he didn't want to take the craziness of the press after it. So he sat there and he took responsibility. But you know what? He should have done that against the Patriots when he got his ass reamed. The reason why they lost that game was him. I mean, all he had to do was put him in field goal range, and they win that freaking game. Okay, it was embarrassing, and it was because of his play. His shifting at the line of scrimmage. Yeah, the offensive line sucked, but dude, I have seen bad offensive lines and young quarterbacks make plays. C.J. Stroud being one of them. He lost 2 offensive linemen this year, but he still found a way to win. Did he not? So I'm not saying he's C.J. Stroud, but hey, they both were the second pick in their draft. Both of them. Okay? And I'm not even – you can't even compare Zach Wilson to C.J. Stroud. Not even a heartbeat. You're better off drinking and killing yourself than trying to compare those two. I mean, seriously, it's horrible. And as a Jet guy, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses to the New York Jet as a New York Jet fan or for all the New York Jet fans. But the Jet fans were very, very hard on him. They're very, very hard on everybody because they expect a winner. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Aaron Rodgers is going to have a lot of pressure on him this year because he expects to do big things with this team and this organization. With all the moves that they made, they did it for him. Bringing in Corley, bringing in an offensive lineman, going in free agency, bringing in all these different guys, Morgan Moses and Smith and all these.
The only problem I have, and it's the biggest red flag to me, is these guys that we're relying on to protect Aaron Rodgers has a massive injury history.
Not Morgan Moses.
He's coming off of a big injury.
Yeah, but he doesn't. He plays usually.
I'm less worried about him, but
also the guard that they brought in fairly healthy.
That's why I was specifically talking about Moses
Smith.
And
That's why they brought Olu in.
Yes, I understand that, but there's a big difference when you put a rookie in game 4 than when you're playing.
The guy didn't give up a sack
in
3 years as a starter.
The NFL is completely different.
I understand, but this guy, just think about it, didn't give up one. Let's look at Penn State and what they played, each and every year, what they played against. Okay, Penn State football. I'm going to go to this year who they played. Top schools, all right? Games. I'm gonna pull them up, and I'm gonna pull this up. Schedule 2003. All right, they were 10-3. All right, West Virginia. Okay, Delaware, Illinois, Iowa. Hold on. Northwestern, UMass, Ohio State. They lost. He didn't give up a sack in that game, by the way, against Ohio State. He didn't give up a sack against Michigan. Another great defense. They lost. Didn't give up a sack. Michigan State, they won 42-0. Didn't give up a sack. Ole Miss didn't give up a sack, and they lost that game. But if you look at the games that was just this past year. So they played Ohio State, top team. He didn't give up a sack in that against a very good defense. Indiana, a very good team this past year. Very good defense. He didn't give up a sack in that game.
But there's a big difference between playing against that defense and playing against an NFL defense. Playing against grown men whose muscles have developed is a major, major, major difference in playing a college defense.
And steroids. And steroids.
At this point, they're all using HGH, which they can't test for.
Dude, they're doing steroids. They're 100% doing steroids. I don't care what anybody says. Look, Penn State the year before played Ohio State, didn't give up a sack. Nebraska didn't give up a sack. Michigan didn't give up a sack that in 2022.
Again, you can list that like, hey, that's great hope
Auburn.
for the future. But
Auburn
if he comes,
didn't give up a sack.
That's a great hope for the future. But he comes in during the season when Ty Smith gets injured against the NFL defense. That's a completely different situation.
I understand that, but I have trust in a guy that when you look at his background, when Smith came in, he didn't give up any sacks in college. I understand we don't know what he's going to be in the NFL, but we do know that this guy is a beast, and he's one of the best pass blockers we've seen come out of the draft in the last 4 years. So just remember that. And I think he's a hit. He's not Mekhi Becton, by the way.
I think he will end up being good. I'm just saying that if he comes in mid-season, that's a completely different situation than when you're preparing to play and start.
Their future's good because now you have your future center in place in Tippmann, who's really, really good. You have your left tackle in place in Olu, who's really, really good. And as long as Elijah Verituka stays out of Denver, he's really, really good. Okay? The guy, I mean, this guy, he for some reason, he's jinxed when he goes to Denver. All right?
I'm laughing because when I looked at the schedule for the Jets and to see who we're playing, I saw Denver Broncos.
It would be in New York. It'll be in New York.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, Denver. Oh fuck! Oh no, okay, we're playing in New York, and that was my thought process when I was reading it before.
No, he'll be fine because it'll be in New York. But he's coming on a contract here too.
They picked up his option.
Yes, but he's coming on. He's going to want money, and in the offseason, you're going to hear rumblings with Sauce, Garrett Wilson, and Elijah Verituka. If Elijah Verituka stays healthy for the full season, dude, how many players that you know in the league that played 4 positions as Elijah Verituka and only given up 1 sack in 2 years?
That's extremely impressive.
It is impressive.
But also just as impressive as that is 2 season-ending injuries.
Yes,
that's just as
much of injury and now an Achilles injury. These are scary injuries for a young man. So he's not Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton was a complete bust after his first year, and the guy was overweight. This guy is built like an ox. He's good. He just needs to stay healthy. And if he stays healthy, the Jets have a good, bright future for 3 guys that could really be the backbone of this offensive line for the next 5 to 8 years. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Jets are. And OTAs are going to start. No hard knocks. I do not want to see him hard knocks.
Thank God.
I've been watching Jets 24, by the way. Flight 24, which is interesting. I don't know if anybody hasn't checked it out. Check it out. Flight 24. I'm not a fan of some of the guys and some of the broadcasters on it. They never asked us to do it. But I listen, as a Jet fan, you just only hope for the best, and hopefully the health of Aaron Rodgers. And by the way, hopefully Aaron Rodgers is not a shell of himself, So I've heard
he'll be fine.
I do too, because he's never hurt his arm, and his arms. I've heard he's winging the ball, and he's looked really, really good throwing the ball. So, and he's put on some weight, muscle weight, which is good. It's a good sign where he wants to stay healthy all season long. He wants to build his upper body, and I've heard he's done that. I think he's gained like 10 pounds of muscle in the offseason. So these are all good signs for the New York Jets. I just hope that offensive line can stay fairly healthy. If they do, this could be a special year for the Jets because honestly, talent-wise, and I'm not saying this as a Jet fan, the Jets have the most talent in the AFC on a roster. So you go up and down, you look at everything from their defense with the additions that they made in the offseason. And by the way, adding Hassan Reddick makes their defense that much better. And adding the offensive line, you added an all-world offensive lineman if he stays healthy. And Smith, Morgan Moses has been a Pro Bowl player. You've added a good guard and all the players that they have over there and the wide receiving core and everything that they have with Breece Hall 100% healthy for a full season. This team should be explosive. It should be. And I don't trust Robert Saleh. That's the thing that I don't trust. That's what worries me because I don't think he's a good coach. But, hey, you have Aaron Rodgers, and he's the coach. As long as he's out there winging the ball and doing the things that he does best, I think the Jets have a very good chance to be explosive and fun to watch all season long. And I think they're the best team in the NFC East, 100%. Miami they missed a lot. I know they brought Odell Beckham, and then now they have Tyreek Hill and Odell Beckham and now Waddle. I mean, they're explosive. There's no question that they are. But their defense, they lost Wilkins. They lost a lot. And I think it might affect – and they lost their defensive coordinator. Who's their defensive coordinator this year? So that's going to be a problem for them going into the season. Is their defense going to play as well as it did last year, especially in the second half? There's a lot of questions. And they lost a lot of players in the second half last year. So, and that's what cost them in the playoffs against the Chiefs, in my opinion. But, yeah, it's a great show, by the way.
Very good show. And one last note to make. This is the second game in a row that Heedle is now not playing after surprisingly returning. They were saying that he was sick, but I really hope that is not just from concussion symptoms. Hopefully he is okay. And on that note, that's it for tonight's show. Thank you everyone for watching. Yep. Good night, Errol.
Oh, good night. Good night. Feel better, man. A great show. Go Knicks.
I'm going to go eat, and I'm going to go root for the Hurricanes.
I know you're rooting for the Hurricanes. I'm not rooting for the Rangers, but I hope the series keeps going, but I think the Rangers win. I want to see Rangers Florida.
I think they'll win the series, but
I want to see the best hockey. That's what I want to see. Yeah, and I think Rangers, Florida, best hockey. That's what I want to see. That's all I care about. And I think I would love to see Colorado beat Dallas, but I think Dallas could be the best team in the playoffs. So
Jake Ottinger, he's absolutely amazing, and I think that I don't see anyone beating Dallas. I think Dallas or Colorado, whoever comes out of that series is winning the cup. I've said it from the beginning. Whoever comes out of the Central is winning the whole thing, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I am doing. And that's it for tonight, and we will see everybody next week. Have a good night, everyone.